Hello and welcome to what is going to be week 4 of your favorite fantasy football league. I'm your commissioner, Tony Davis.
And I am former professional journalist Spence Brodden, not wearing any pants today.
Don't need them.
Our sponsor this week, Shell's Oktoberfest. It's almost October. Drink a beer.
Definitely my favorite seasonal beer. But
I'd agree with that, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. This is not one of those, by the way. Last week's matchup, Tony beats Spencer by 13.
You said 30. So
I said, wow, look at that. I got half of it right. I got the third part
the third
right.
part, that's half.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, not much to be said.
You had 6 guys scoring double figures. I had a defense. That was fun.
Your defense was good.
Cardinals D. And then we made a trade, so whatever. We'll talk about that in a bit.
That's coming up. Next matchup here, we're going to probably slide on down.
We're going to go to Thomas losing for the 3rd week in a row, as well as setting up what will be one of 2 bowls this week.
Brutally losing. All he had to do was start the guy he picked up, Andre Brown from New York, and the only reason he picked him up was to play him because, Bradshaw was only going to be out 1 week, so play him.
And then it's a Thursday night game, and he just doesn't get around to doing it in time, and here you are with a 6-point loss.
I think their smackboard sums it up when Joel says, "Thanks, Tom, I really appreciate it, really."
That's all you need to know about it.
That pretty much sums up the win.
Gift wrap Joel's 3rd win of the year. Joel, by the way, with his 3rd win, has equaled his total in 2 other seasons that we've played. So
He coming.
I just made that up. That's probably not true.
It's not true.
No, it's not at all. Kirby, holy cow, laid an egg this week against his hometown nemesis, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming.
No.
But, I liked it because it finally defeated one of the undefeated to level the playing field a little bit. That's always good for the league.
One of the guys we have seen as one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league thus far this year, just putting up a real stinker.
Romo, he's kind of been a fantasy cancer this year so far, so hopefully...
2 out of 3 weeks he's been pretty terrible.
Yeah,
right?
He hasn't been great. Let's see what we got next.
We had a barn burner between Jake and Brian, although it was decided by Monday night. Nobody had anybody on Monday night. Jake stays undefeated, defending champ 3-0 with a 4-point victory over always feisty Brian Woods.
Right, and I think we both said this would be determined by a skosh, and I think we were right. It was a close game.
4 points is definitely a skosh, yeah.
Moving on to the next
nailed that one.
Next wrap up here comes to...
Yes, the rematch. The week 1 tie rematch between our boys Bees and Bird. Bird and Bees, Bird and the Bees. That's the story you want to hear about.
We had this as game of the week just because of the hilarity behind it. And
the backstory.
Like, Bees actually is the first one to figure out how to do a GIF as his picture, so that's pretty cool. I like that.
We got to ask him about that.
Yep. But as far as the matchup goes, Bird is looking bad right now.
Just had a terrible week.
His injuries are awful.
Yeah.
There's not much he can really do about it. Injuries are going to happen, and he's just got to fight through it, stay positive. This coming week, his projection right now is 70.
Oh, that's awful.
Which is one of the lower projections I've ever seen.
His second leading scorer last week was Reggie Bush with 6, who is hurt this week.
Yeah.
So Bird's in a world of trouble right now.
So we'll see how he handles that. The final matchup was between Connor and our boy Silk the Milk. We both kind of predicted Silk to win this one, just the way Connor's team is going.
And Connor, behind the strength of Jamal Charles and Torrey Smith, scoring him 60 points between 2 guys, made it a contest, yeah.
And to be honest, I think, just in time for me to play him, I think his team is actually doing the opposite of what I thought it was last week, because Charles busts out. He's got Aaron Rodgers, who now plays New Orleans. I mean,
he's going to put up more than 9.
His way now all of a sudden, and it's kind of like, well, wait a minute. Now, and Torrey Smith blew up, so all of a sudden his team's not looking so bad.
And he's got the waiver wire pickup of the week, in my opinion, which we'll get to in a second here.
Exactly. And so to wrap up this game matchup here, and so maybe preview the future matchup here.
Yes.
I'm going to turn it over to Spence to give the interview of the week, the weekly champ mushroom stamp, to our weekly winner, Mr. Silky Johnson.
Yes, we've got the guy that scored 19 points more than anyone else last week. It's Silk Johnson, and I looked this up at work today. Yeah. It's Silky's 3rd time in over 50 regular season weeks in this league being the #1 guy of the week. I also made that statistic up. Silky, how did you do it? 119 last week. It looks like you had only 2 guys that didn't score in double figures.
Well, I just played the right guys, I don't know, Larry Fitz and Mike Wallace, I've been waiting for them. Well, waiting for Larry, not really Wallace. Wallace has been doing pretty well for me this year. Larry busted out, which is great. Falcons D was really good. Probably the pickup of the week for me, though, had to be Jason Hansen, making the swap at kicker, putting up big 18 points for me there.
Are you going to stick with Hansen against the Vikes this week?
It's looking that way right now. I've been kind of a little wishy-washy about it. I'm not really sure. Hopefully our defense will be really good in the red zone against Sean Hill, so they can try out Hansen for a couple 30, 40 yards.
Mike Wallace on a bye this week, unfortunately. Kendall Wright in your third wide receiver spot. How do you feel about that?
I feel like that's going to change now that I've got Sir Leonard Hankerson.
Oh, sure. You're going to go with...
on the bench.
You're going to go with the medieval threat in Leonard Hankerson?
Yep. Right. Pierce Garcon, as some might say, I think is still injured, either out or ineffective this week. So I think Hankerson's going to be number one, and Tampa Bay is pretty porous pass defense. So
Noob is now starting after this week's trade, 1/3 of my team. How do you feel about your matchup against him this week?
I still feel pretty good. AJ Green is a beast.
You should, because my team sucked dick.
He's got Jimmy, which is a solid 12 points, almost guaranteed. I like Trent Richardson's matchup tonight against the Ravens. I don't think he's going to do a whole lot, hopefully. We'll see how that goes here in a few minutes, but I'm feeling pretty good.
Lastly, talk some smack. Do it. Right into the camera. Give it to him.
Noob, you're going down. Man, your team is full of noobs, and that's fitting because you're a noob. I'm going to beat you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, man.
Silky Johnson, ladies and gentlemen.
Well done. Well done.
Dude.
Your Week 3 champion. All right, we make our way into the whirl around Week 4. But first, waiver wire pickup. What was your favorite this week, Tony? Did you have a favorite?
Well, I'm not sure I did.
I'll tell you mine if you want to.
I don't know if there were any standout ones to me. Go ahead and say yours.
Well, I thought, based on the news that we've heard about Beanie Wells in the last 24 hours, Ryan Williams was a perfect pickup at the perfect time for Connor Bennett. Going to be the starter for at least the next 5 or 6 weeks, you'd think. And he had a great week last week, so you can pretty much plug and play him right into the lineup.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe I just don't want to admit it because I'm playing Connor, but that's definitely
tough to say.
You want to take a second to talk about the trade as well, since you were involved?
Sure, yeah. 3-on-3 trade between Noob and I. Our teams are kind of static at the moment. We have one win between the two of us, so I needed wideouts. I asked for 2 of his, and I had Jimmy Graham, who was the best asset available for me, so I threw Jimmy his way, picked up, I don't even remember, Miles Austin and Lance Moore, who are 2 top 10 wide receivers through 3 weeks. Lance probably won't stay there, but Miles might. So I felt good about picking up some wideouts, and Noob really solidified his tight end spot with Jimmy, as well as picking up Deshaun Jackson and sneaky, I think, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis.
Yeah, that's a nice pickup for him.
The running back.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not playing him this week. Just to kind of throw him out there, see how it goes right away with the tough matchup for Richardson. But
yeah.
we'll
Matthew Berry loves Ben Jarvis this week against the Jaguars, but Noob's going to go with Trent. So.
All right, so let's quickly get into some previews here. First, I'd like to hit on the game of the week. Just going to mention that real quick. We got the 2 undefeated squads and the 2 winless squads playing each other this week.
That's
It's
right.
funny how fantasy works out that way.
Super Bowl and the Toilet Bowl in Week 4.
Who are you picking in the big game, though?
In the big game, boy, they both scored around 80 last week. Just looking at the matchups right now, Jake's got Ryan Matthews back in the lineup, so you got to give a little bit of an edge to him, even though Rindy's got some great wide receivers. Tony Gonzalez has been bringing it this year, so it might come down to something like the tight end, and Gonzalez has been putting up more points than Gronkowski, so who figured?
Yeah, with the wide receivers and the way Joel's going, I got to take Joel. I just love the way he's made moves this season. I love Joel. I'm gonna roll with Joel this week.
Rolling with Jolin.
Yep.
Nice.
How about you?
In the winless game, then, we've got Thomas and myself. Tom picked up Daniel Thomas, who might play if Reggie Bush stays hurt. I picked up a third of Noob's team and Bilal Powell, and I don't know. I feel good about my chances of picking up victory number 1 this week, only because I'm playing somebody equally as incompetent as me and Thomas.
So we can just go down the line here. That game predicted right now to not be very close.
No, not at all.
Have you changed your lineup around?
I still need a tight end.
Okay.
Is what I
So
need.
there you
I
go.
still need one move to make, but he's not going to make up the 34-point difference between us right now in projections. So,
as I had mentioned, Connor and I, right now I'm projected to lose 89. That's a really low projection for where I think I should be at, but
sure,
that's okay. We'll see what happens.
Let's see who you got in there right now. I know Doug Martin has a really low projection.
He has
this
7.
week.
Macklin has 3. I'm just kind of like,
I mean, if they're going to play, they're probably going to get more than that.
Yeah,
and be 100%. So I wouldn't worry too much about that part of the projection. But Connor apparently might show a little life this week if he's going to throw Ryan Williams in there. So there's a little stronger Connor Bennett than we're used to, even though he's the one guy that I shouldn't say he's the one guy. He is a guy that beat me this year. So, get in line as far as that's concerned.
Yep. we talked about the big game. We talked about Silky's game a little bit. Let's slide down to this game right here. This is Mustache Rides versus I Win Heisman's or Steve Beal. Probably going to change his name again this week, hopefully.
I like the constant name changes. Also, probably the two best sets of facial hair in the league going at it this week in Bees' beard and Kirby's mustache.
Given what Joel looks like on any given day, yeah.
That's a good point.
You never know. He's the wild card.
Joel can bring it, but every now and then he likes to shave, unlike these other two guys. So
Romo has just been he's just been bad. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Bees in this one based on that.
I like Bees too. I mean, he's got his Schaub to Johnson matchup going. It worked for him last week. If it happens again this week, I think he's got Joel.
And finally, we have Bird versus Woody's. You got to go Woody's here. That 70-point projection of the injuries that's stacking up. Everything is going against Bird right now. You never know, though. That's the beauty of fantasy.
Will he go with Chris Johnson again is a big question. I will say, we found this out in one of our other leagues. Chris Johnson is now droppable.
He's droppable, Bird.
So if you want to drop him, go for it.
Yeah, so
8 points in 3 weeks. That's just a travesty.
So yeah, I think that'll pretty much wrap it up for this week's edition. Thanks for watching, and good luck this week. And any final thoughts?
Good luck in Week 4, and check that waiver wire after the inevitable injuries. Now that we've got the actual referees back, yeah, they're not really that much better than the replacements, let's be honest.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for watching, guys.